Welcome back to Fairy Tail Anime Review. This is part 6, and in this episode, this part I'm reviewing Season 6 of the Fairy Tail anime. This one starts off a particular arc that it's still basically, that it starts off, this season pretty much is the first 25 of a 53 episode arc, known as the Grand Magic Games. Though the first few episodes are just stuff leading up to it, like there's an episode where they found out about the games. Like the opening episode, the first half of it was just an epilogue to the previous season. That's really the whole point of it, and of course helps setting up the Grand Magic Games, which initially the fourth master was initially against, but they the guy who was the fourth master, now Gildarts, he was named the fifth master, but he decided to step down and go up whatever the heck he wants. And before he left, he did two things as master. First, Laxus was restored as a member, and two, his the third master was named the sixth master. Makarov was named the sixth master. It was actually quite interesting, and he got so ticked off. And he told him basically because prior to this, Makarov showed him the Fairy Tail secret, basically whatever's inside of whatever's in the Fairy Tail, in the original Fairy Tail building basement, the first building, the main one, anyways. And he said to him that when he left, he says he would never tell anybody what's actually down there. And Makarov's like, "You better not." Yeah, he better not. And they started off with these Grand Magic Games. Well, before that, they have an episode where most of the characters go to the beach. Yep. And I love episodes of anime, basically, where, yeah, the characters go to the beach, which means you get a chance to get to see lots of fan service. It's actually one of two episodes where they kind of do this, where they give the male audience some fan service by having all the female characters wear swimsuits. Yeah, they even have Carla wearing a swimsuit, which was funny. Yeah, like they put everybody in swimsuits, like all the female members of Fairy Tail in swimsuits. It's so hilarious. Gajo goes out to training wherever, and in the same episode, basically they have it where like everybody just enjoying themselves at the beach, and Natsu and Gray just sort of like doing this little thing like swimming, suntan, sandcastle, and go off the rest. But then also they have an episode where they had everybody go to Celestial World, like most of the characters anyways, like some of the ones who, like most of the ones that disappeared for 7 years. They go to Celestial World, and pretty much spending a day there is like 3 months. In the outside world, 3 months have passed by. Yeah, and they had like 5 days before they get to the exam. So Jalal basically revealed to form his own guild with Melody and I don't remember the other character's name. The other two characters that were introduced in season 3, I believe it was. Yeah, 3. During the whole during the arc when they're on the island for the S-class trials, S-class exam. Yeah, they formed their independent guild. So yeah, and they pretty much like, because the fact that Melody basically uses time magic, she pretty much has everybody, I think, except for Urza. They never show what Urza, if she locked it. Basically, they reveal something called Second Origin, which is basically kind of like a backup magical source, which basically amplifies their powers, because they are kind of rusty because they haven't done any training in 7 years, well, because they were in stasis, and also because they haven't aged 7 years. So yeah, so they all go through it. Natsu goes through it first, and then everyone else does. And then when it gets to the Grand Magic Games, the team that initially picked, now there is actually two teams. The first team's not really related. The main team is basically Natsu, Gray, Urza, Natsuki Urza, Wendy, and Lucy. That's the main team. Team B was revealed to be, let's see, I think it was Julia, Mira Jade, Loxus. I'm trying to think, who else was it? It was Loxus, Kana. Was two. Oh yeah, Ganjol, and I'm trying to think. Was there anything else? There was one of them. I'm trying to remember who it was. It was. Oh yeah, it was It was Jalal disguised as Mystigan. Yep. Now the first day when they have the games, basically, it didn't. Now before they get to the games, because apparently 113 guilds signed up, and they wanted to trim it down to 8, but they actually trimmed it down to 7 because, well, Fairy Tail had 2 teams. Because Wendy had gone missing, so Elfman decided just to step in as a substitute for Wendy until, well, Wendy was found. And basically it took Happy and Levy basically to find them. Yep. And of course they got there, and when Team A got there, they actually made it into 8th place. The strongest guild revealed at the start of the season was actually Sabretooth. Now they were basically automatically in 1st place. The 2nd place team was Fairy Tail Team B. Yeah. And after going to like the first day, what they do too well, they had it where this crazy woman, Flora, basically, who, when I saw her and her movements and her hair, kind of reminds me of Palm Sabrina from Hunter x Hunter. Well, basically of how nuts she really is and the fact she can move her hair the way she does. Yeah, and during a match with Lucy, she actually threatened Biscuit's daughter. Biscuit, I don't remember her husband's name. Yeah, their 6-year-old little girl with her hair, which apparently can burn. And then pretty much, even though that everyone else didn't hear Lucy's screams, Natsu did, and he destroyed the hair that was going to hurt her. And of course, Lucy beat her, and well, yeah. And Flora's actually from Raventail, the guild run by Makarov's son. Iandre, I think his name is, yeah. And it turns out that he actually decides to cheat by posing as one of his members, one of his team members, as Axel Alexei, I think his name is, yeah, a guy in a metal suit, who apparently after Lucy lost her match because she cast a spell that was countered, and because she was running out of magic, she pretty much collapsed right there. And because of their cheating, basically, Axel, aka the Guildmaster, decided to beat the crap out of her off screen. Yeah, because when it was next time she was seen in the next match, she had bruises on her, and I mean, my gosh, he basically just beat the living crap out of this woman just because that she had to get help. Just because basically one of the members had to help her in order to beat Lucy. Yeah. And of course later on, basically when they reveal him, it was actually for everybody's kind of a surprise, and they were automatically disqualified on the spot. Now when they get to like regular battles, and so some of the battles are quite interesting. Like some of the other ones, like one was like find the real one hidden. Let's see. Of course, it was the battle one. Let's see what else. There was what seemed like something of a video game, basically, where Urza decided to challenge all the monsters in this one castle. It's so hilarious. And of course, they also had a chariot race where there was like moving platforms, and apparently Natsu and Ganjo basically managed to get, well, Natsu got 6th place and Ganjo got 7th. And the reason why they got that far, now normally it would not be a problem for an linear challenge, but because it was a moving vehicle, yeah, Natsu, Ganjo, and Sting all got motion sickness. And Ganjo's like, I don't get motion sickness. Why in the world am I getting motion sickness? Yeah, it's something really bizarre though about it. Yeah. And of course, when they get to Urza, basically she challenges all 100 monsters and she beats them all. And I guess like, okay, so what are we gonna do with these other 7 people because Urza just completed that challenge? So they decided to basically test everybody's strength, and they used something from uh, the Magical Council Custody Division. They had, of course, they had the chief there too. Now on the first day, they had um, the model who was basically Mara Jade's basically the woman who looked at Mara Jade as an idol, who posed for Sorcerer Weekly. Yeah, who's on their team, and she technically she just she wasn't fighting that day. She decided to basically be a guest commentator, and it is yeah, and let's see what else. Oh yeah. Of course, the second day it was well when they got to Custody Division, they of course after the whole thing with Raventail after cheating was revealed, they all were arrested on the spot. Yeah, I think that Ivan Drake went to jail and the other member just whatever the heck they want. But yeah, they had this really funny match when they had one of the battles when they had Mary J take on the woman from Blue Pegasus, where instead of being a knock. Now this is one of the battles. Now this is basically particularly where everybody decided to give wagers. Like the first battle was between the guy from Raventail and the guy from Laurician Scale, where the guy from Raventail, if he wins, basically, the Dogface guy gets to tell him his secret, and if the Dogface guy wins, the guy from Raventail gets to tell his real name. Of course, the Dogface guy lost, and his thing was basically the whole thing was socks. Then when they had the one guy from, I don't remember the guild's name because they changed it because it was part of a bet they made. Because like, oh yeah, everyone's doing bets now, so let's just do it. Where if the guy basically who Urza basically fought many times, the guy who basically does like Drunken Fist, he says if he beats, of course, because it was match was so arranged basically because everyone thought it was going to be Urza fighting him. Yeah, the Colonel actually made a mistake by basically putting Elfman in the match, but he could have been more wrong basically for the match. Yeah, and because of the fact, hey, Elfman's got 2 hot sisters, basically, his bet was this: if he wins, he gets a night with he gets to basically do both Elfman sisters at the same time. And if Elfman wins, they get to change the guild get to change the name for the games as for Quintus Puppy. It is actually the most hilarious thing he's ever come up with, but the other one was basically very weird. I mean, come on, I get maybe trying to get into trying to basically mirror Jade, but Loxa basically still looks like a minor, though she's probably like mid-20s, and Mira is probably like in her 30s maybe because the 7-year because they've been stuck in that form for 7 years, and of course Elfman wins, and they got to change their name. Now when they got to Mira Jade and that woman from Blue Pegasus, I have to look up her name here. Let's see here if I can find her name. Let's see here. I'm trying to think of her name from Blue Pegasus. Let's see. What is her name? Oh, Jenny. Yeah, it's on second day of the battle, the whole thing to Betty. Yeah, and here's kind of the thing. They decided, instead of doing, like, knockout brawling, they decided to do some posing by having them basically just do... And this comes completely out of nowhere. They decided to, instead of fighting, go into swimsuits. And then all the girls decided to basically put on swimsuits. And I do mean all the girls. It's so hilarious. They only did that. They did cat suits, dominatrix suits. They even had the girl dressed up as brides. And had to go with their guys. So hilarious. Like Juliet goes with Gray, and Of course, Sonic wants to do the whole Natsu's arm, but Lucy fell on him. And Ganju, for some reason, decided to put him in a suit. He's like, nah, I'll pass. He just falls asleep. It's so hilarious. It's one of the most hilarious moments, and then they try to do another swimsuit competition, and then the old lady from Les Miscalco, who's actually senile, and she does the thing where, yeah, just use a little finger, basically get people to spin for no reason, to put everybody to shame by putting on a swimsuit for no reason. And then later on, basically, they decided to do an actual combat, and Mirage just beats Jenny basically with one punch. Oh, and what was the loser supposed to do? The loser was supposed to pose for Sorcerer Weekly. That's a magazine that's referenced many times in the anime manga. In their birthday suit. So basically, they had to pose butt-ass naked. So basically, it's kind of like being an issue of Playboy. Okay. And because Jenny lost, she has to basically pose in nude. Yeah, it's quite hilarious. It's one of the most oddest bets I have ever seen. These two ladies, like, whoever loses gets to pose in nude. And then they have Kagura versus another Celestial Wizard, where whoever loses basically gets to bet their lives. And because the Celestial Wizard lost, now this is something because they lost, they actually show what happened to her. Now, basically, she was forced to remove her her Sabretooth emblem because she lost. In the manga, and I guess for some people they're kind of glad that the anime decided not to put this in the anime because it would have been kind of creepy to show. The Master of Sabretooth decided to do something very... How should I put this? He decided to do something that for a lot of people basically it would have basically brought a lot of, let's say, shame to the anime if he actually did this. In the manga, Yoko, as a result of her losing and of course betting her life, first she is ordered to strip butt-ass naked in front of him and then remove her emblem. I'm like, seriously? What the heck is your problem? She lost, so what? And then she's forced to kick out of the guild. Yep. Now, they didn't put that in the anime. I kind of get the reason why. Because it's not exactly gross per se. It's uncomfortable, to say the least. Yeah. So I kind of get the reason why they cut this from the anime. Because it's just uncomfortable to watch. Luckily enough, they didn't show in the manga basically her, like, all of her clothes come at one piece. And basically, they just have it where it has, like, zip, zip, zip. They just have zipping sounds. Basically, everybody's reaction to it. And Natsu, basically, because she was humiliated and kicked out of her guild, Natsu decided to pick a fight with Sabretooth, basically blasting through almost all the members just to take on their master. Yeah. And they basically, Natsu's like, nah, you fight him. And Natsu beats him with one punch, and they decided to take him out for a good while. And then Matt just stopped by the master's daughter, who had kidnapped Happy. And he said, like, okay. She's like, okay, don't kill him because he's one of the competitors, and it'll look really bad on us, basically, if we kill him. So they let him go. And before Natsu, he says, you will never surpass us. Yeah. And of course, next day, basically, they had a kind of like something similar to the swimsuit thing, where they had very kind of like an orbital naval battle, where like most of the women, almost all the women on all the teams basically decided to go into this thing. Along with one guy from the Quintus Puppy one, who decided to wear a Speedo for no reason. He's the first one eliminated. Excuse me. And Juvia basically was perfect for her because, well, her body's made of water. So what? So perfectly fine for her. And she was able to eliminate 3 people at once with her move, basically, because of her dedication for her love for Gray. It's called Gray's Love, basically. It's like this big water blast with a bunch of hearts, and she knocked out 3 people at once. And then somehow, basically, she was able to get knocked out. Of course, Lucy decided to summon underwater. She summoned Aquarius. Why not? That's not a bad idea. There is water around, so why not? Yeah. And of course the Mizera, I think her name is. Let me look up her name here. What is her name? Let's see here. Minerva. Yeah. Minerva basically decides to, instead of having Lucy be eliminated, she decides to do something that, for a lot of people, shocked everybody. She decided to just continually beat up Lucy a lot. And then the match was stopped just before the time limit ran out. And she got in second place. Though she had to sit out the rest of the season, basically spending it in the hospital. Elfman, and I thought this was quite hilarious, because everybody kind of knows it's implied that Evergreen has a thing for Elfman. So, yeah, Bigsley decided to push Evergreen onto basically Elfman. Yeah, it says, why don't you go cuddle with him? It's like, hey! Yeah, it's so hilarious. Of the fact that, despite the fact everybody knows these two are attracted to each other, and yet they openly deny the fact they are attracted to each other, even though they probably are. And then, of course, later on, she's shown be sleeping next to him, basically like leaning on him while she's sitting in a chair. And she's with him, but pretty much the whole time when he's in the hospital. Heck, they even briefly hug. It's like, nah. She's like, let go of me. Yeah. Of course, later on, they do have like tag team battles. And this is kind of one thing I kind of expected Blue Pegasus to do. What is his name? Let's see here. Oh, yeah, Sheila. Yeah, from Lamius Scale. Yeah, who was Shelly's cousin. Yeah, she's revealed to be a Sky Dragon, a Sky God Slayer. Let's see here. Oh yeah. Before I get to the next thing, basically because of Fairy Tail's disqualification, the two teams had to merge. Team A and Team B Fairy Tail had to merge into one. So from Team A, they kept Natsu, Gray, and Urza. Why not? They're some of the strongest wizards in the guild. And they also put on a team Gonjol and Loxus. Of course, Loxus fought his father and won. Yeah. And then, of course, they ended the season with a, I think it's like a 4-parter, I think it is. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, yeah, before they get to the battle, yeah, they reveal basically, now, Blue Pegasus has had this guy in a bunny suit the whole time, and it turns out it's actually Exy, the one who looks like, what's his, who looks like, Ichiya. And it's, well, it's the Exy that was shown in, Season 3, who looks like him. And somehow they met and they became good friends. Somehow, and they formed sort of like a bromance. Yeah, it's really bizarre. But yeah, somehow basically Blue Pegasus won this battle just by having Ichigo basically just go, like, just inhale some potion stuff, go super strong, and just beat the crap out of the Quintus puppy. And then they ended the season with a 4-parter where Gonjo and Natsu teamed up to take on the two Dragon Slayers, Sabretooth, and they won. Yeah, they won. It was a great way to end the season, but the story didn't end there because apparently I did a little research though. At this point, at the end of season 6, they had to put the anime on hold because they had caught up to the manga at this point. So they decided to give the animators a break just to give the manga more time to do more stuff. But it's okay, and the hiatus lasted for like almost like a year. Let's see, how long did it last for? Let's see, March 30th. This is of course in Japan, and it resumed in April of 1994, to 2014. So yeah, pretty much a little over a year. So 1 year, 1 month later, the anime resumed. Excuse me. But this was actually a pretty good season nonetheless. Despite the fact the story for the season wasn't exactly finished. due to the fact that, along with not only this season but the previous two seasons, 25 episodes, and like that's it. But luckily enough that now here's kind of the thing: the manga chapters themselves were actually much longer. You see, the arc in the manga basically was almost exactly 100 chapters, which is quite long. And from what I can tell, it's one of the longest arcs of the manga. And from this point forward, after this, now as far as I can tell for the anime, what they adapted so far, after this arc is finished up, there is in season 7. There's the rest of this arc. There is a filler arc, and like 2 more arcs after that, and then that's it for season 7. 7 is a 90 episode season, so when I get to part 7, it probably won't be until Saturday by the time I finally get a chance to review this. Maybe Friday or Saturday this week I might get a chance to review it, okay? But yeah, good, exciting season nonetheless. I'm trying to think, was anything else I forgot? Of course, Locke is kind of find out about some kind of secret that's underneath there, and he doesn't know exactly what it is. Oh yeah, and the first master, Mavis, yeah, she's shown, and well, she's basically there the whole time watching the whole battle, which everyone's like, hey, why is Mavis here? And aren't you afraid people are going to see her? And she's like, nah, only people with the fairy tale marks can see me. Which, okay, that's actually quite ingenious. And a good way to basically write out the fact, like, thinking like everybody's crazy that, oh yeah, how everybody's seeing a dead woman. Now, from looking at her, she looks like she's probably around 15, 16ish. She looks like a teenager who's very jitty with herself. Yeah. And, oh, when they get to the whole thing with the whole testing strength thing, yeah, when they got to Kana, now the first person to go up was the one who's from the mermaid heel, basically, and when she was first hit, according to the guy who's in charge of the custody division, she has the strength of a captain, like 365. Okay, and then they had let's see, they had the one guy from Ravenclaw just Raventail just do a measly 4. The archive guy basically barely managed 100, and the Mira from, I think it was Mira from Sabretooth. Yeah, I think it was her or somebody else. Test the strength basically. Now someone got really close, but when they got the Kana, because she was given one of the fairy tale special spells, fairy dust, she used it and she broke the magic meter. Yeah, she broke it, automatically winning. And I guess I was like, hey, she's strong because she's the daughter of the guild's strongest wizard. Yeah. So, yeah, that was really it. And of course, despite the fact, oh, almost forgot. Prior to her punching that thing, she's basically plastered. She is like really, really drunk. It showed that apparently, while this all was going on, she apparently had drunken through like about 20 bottles of it looked like rum. And the guy with the archive magic basically is like, hey, you want to get together later? He's like, sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing that was weird about the guys in Blue Pegasus. They're always putting the moves on the women from Fairy Tail. Though they're not, they kind of did that with Wendy in season 3. Actually, it was season 2, I believe it was. Yeah, season 2. Even though they did for season 2, they at least were not trying to seduce a 12-year-old girl. Yeah. But despite that, okay, now this is really it. But yeah, this was a good, like I said, good season nonetheless. Stay tuned whenever I get a chance to do part 7. Probably later this week because it's a 90 episode season. I will be doing comic corners this week, basically maybe like 1 or 2, depends on basically when I get more trades in. And there will be another episode of Boruto coming up this week, so expecting a review of that, okay? But until I see you all in my next video, I'll see you there. Bye.